Creating an amazing remix is simple. What's up everyone, welcome to another video, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a Afro House remix in FL Studio. So in this case I'm remixing a track from Maribou State, and I came across this song on Instagram and I directly thought I have to remix this one. So that's exactly what I did. So let me guide you through the project. I'm going to give you some amazing tips and useful insights on how to create a really cool remix. So let's dive right in. So the first step for creating a remix is finding out the BPM and key of the track. And the key or scale of a track is very important when you're creating a remix. So you're able to find the right chord progression. So in most cases you can find a piano version or a remake in, for example, FL Studio. So that's exactly what I did. I found a piano remake for this track, and after adding the piano chords, I've separated the vocal from the original track. So basically drag in your track into FL Studio, select the icon right here, so this waveform or tiny icon, and then select extract stems from sample, and then you just have to extract the vocals. But you can also, for example, extract the bass and then figure out the bass notes if you use a key detector, for example. But in this case, we're going to keep it simple and I'm just going to use the vocals. And after you've separated the vocals, make sure to select different sections from the vocal, create a new arrangement to make it interesting. So not reuse the full vocal, but just reuse parts and then just randomize them, for example. And then on the vocals, the most basic thing is just remove the unnecessary frequency. So in this case is a female vocal, and just use a low cut or high pass around 300 Hertz in this case. Because I just want to remove the unnecessary frequencies which you don't need and will make your mix muddy in the end. Okay, so the next step is starting off with the drums. So at first you want to find a groove which is really cool, especially for Afro House. And if you're interested in the samples which I'm using, make sure to check out the Afro House Chemistry Producer Bundle. The link is in the description. And if you want to download some free samples and loops, make sure to check out my website. There are multiple kits available for free. So make sure to check it out. And at first I'm adding this kick rhythm, which is just following every step. You can hear that metallic sounding sound on the kick. So I think it adds a lot of texture and transients to this kick sample. So next up we're adding a shaker layer, and you could use a shaker layer from, for example, the Afro House Chemistry Producer Bundle. So I've added 24 shaker loops which you can drag in. So in this case I've added a top layer. So I'm layering this with the kick. So then I'm using another bongo loop and 2 more percussion loops. So I think that already sounds very cool, but we definitely need to fine tune the groove. And we can easily do this by adding some percussions which contain some mid frequencies. So in this case I've added a thumb rhythm or pattern, which is playing the same sample in 2 different notes. So in A and C. So let's have a listen. Then I'm adding another thumb right here. Then we're adding a hi-hat which plays at the offbeat. Then we're adding 2 more percussions, so a head and a clap. As you can hear, the drum loop is already coming together. So right now in the bottom for this track, we're adding more and more layers. So right now I'm adding this clap which defines the main rhythm. And then in the main part of the track, we're adding another percussion. So it sounds like a full loop contains some low, mid and high frequencies. So this is a great starting point for adding more layers to your remix or track. So right now I showed you how to create the drum pattern. So right now let's start off with some melody layers. So the first layer, and a layer which is used in a lot of Afro House tracks, is a piano. And this is basically a very easy sound which you can use as a foundation for your track. And make sure when you add a layer like this, you spend some more time perfecting this one. So for a piano, I'm using Labs and I'm using the Intimate Grand Piano. And you can download this piano for free. So make sure to check it out. And I think it's very helpful and an amazing layer to use it in your Afro House tracks. So for this remix, I used the original chords. I tweaked them a little bit, made them a little bit more human. So I've used the strumizer and I played around with the brightness of the notes. So let's have a listen. So I think this chord progression is a great fit for a remix like this. And it adds a lot of rhythm by applying these progressions to this chord. So make sure to not create a simple 4x4 chord progression. So that's the main element for this track. So right now we need to add some low frequencies. And in this case, it could be a bass. So in this case, I'm using the bass advance from my Keinemusik producer bundle. So in the Serum presets folder, you can simply select this one, right mouse button, and then select send to selected channel. But you can also use it in all other DAWs. So for example, Ableton or Logic. So those are the root notes of the chord progression. So I'm not creating a new melody. I've just reused the root notes for adding this bass. So let's have a listen. Goes very well together. And I really like this bass line because it contains some low frequencies and mid frequencies. So we don't have to add another layer. It's just a very simple element to add to your track. And it makes it very simple to mix your track in the end. So the next layer is a pluck layer. And in most of the Afro House tracks, a simple pluck, which is very repetitive, is used. But in this case, I try to switch it up. I try to create a melody element for this pluck. So I'm using the Pluck recap from my upcoming Diva preset bundle. And this is one of my go-to Afro House plucks. So I really like this one. And it's already pre-mixed, so you don't have to add a lot of effects, for example, or EQing. And this melody sounds like this. I think so it's very, very cool. I've also added a automation, so I'm going to show you how to do this. So as you can see, I've created automation for the pluck, so the frequency. And this is basically the cutoff filter. So within Diva, you could select the cutoff filter right here. It's this knob. And by automating this knob, you can basically program the amount of high frequencies. So more high frequencies are coming through. And you could do this by selecting this knob right here. So make sure now it's selected. Then you select add, then you select automation for last tweaked parameter. And then the automation clip will be added to your playlist. And then you could add points to the automation. So make sure to play around, be creative, and create something cool. Then we want to add another layer, and I wanted to add a layer which is more Amapiano inspired. So it's on the half step. And as you can see, it's just playing the root notes. So let's have a listen. And it adds a lot of rhythm to a track. So it's a very simple layer, and you could easily add this one to fill up some emptiness in your track. So if you're thinking about it doesn't sound right, I have to add another element, this is a very simple element which you can add. And you could just use a simple saw, brass, and reduce some of the high frequencies. So it's still in the background, so it's not a main sound. So then the final elements which we're adding are some effects. So I'm using FX 8, 6, and 7 from the Keinemusik producer bundle. And those are basically some simple up and down lifters. And those are just the favorite up and down lifters which I use in my tracks. So let's have a listen. So simple white noise. Make sure they're in the background, they're very quiet, not too loud. Very easy to add. So the next step is adding the vocals, and I hope I don't get copyright strike for this, but I'm going to show you how to add the vocals and create something interesting. So I'm going to show you some quick and simple tips. So for the intro, I've used some ambient sections from the original vocal. And then I'm using an automation, and I've automated an EQ. And I've automated this EQ, so right now just the mid frequencies are coming through. But I think it's really cool to already give a preview of the full vocal. So that's why you have to chop up the vocal to create something new, create something organic. Then we're moving on to the bridge for the vocal. So then as you can see, the diva is coming in, so creating a build up. So then right here, I'm removing the kick, and you can basically already feel the main part or drop is coming very, very soon. So reusing the chops from the intro. Very, very simple. as you can see, I'm reusing the chops again and again, keeping it interesting, making sure the vocals are on beat, because sometimes when it comes to old tracks or old soul inspired tracks, the vocal could be a little bit offbeat for using it in an EDM track. So I have to make sure the timing is right. So for example, right here, I had to adjust the timing. So you basically go to the magnet right here and then select none. And then you could move the vocal sample around freely like this. And then basically the main parts for the vocal are repeating throughout the track. And because I've created a melody, I was thinking about creating again the repetitive Afro House rhythm. So that's exactly what I did right here. So I've created kind of a build-up using the cutoff frequency. So let's have a listen. So it's this rhythm. Using a lot of these tracks. So I've showed you how to create all the layers for a track. So right now, let me show you how to organize your mixer, because this is something which one of you guys asked in the previous video. So this is the mixer, and I'm basically always applying the same structure. So right here are the effects, the vocals, the melody elements, the drums, the bass, the kick, and the drum bus. So sometimes I have to add more elements because I'm using more bass elements, for example, but the structure is basically the same for almost all of my projects. So this is a bus, so all these elements are linked to this mixer bus. And this in the end makes it so much easier to make adjustments and tweaks. And it's just way easier creating a clean sounding track. You can simply select all these elements by holding Command, then press Control Option and a right mouse button, and then select route to this track only. So right now all these elements or inserts are linked to this bus. Then you could simply rename this one. So in this case it's bus. All the layers, right mouse button, rename color, and then select a color from the color selector. So in most of the case, I'm picking a random color from these numbers right here. I'll pick a random one right here. Doesn't matter that much. It just makes it very easy to recognize the elements which are basically bundled together. And then on the bus, you can easily remove some elements which you don't need. So in this case, it's for example a low cut. So I've reduced some of the low frequencies and I'm automating this one. So I'm removing the low frequencies before the main part of the track to make sure the drop sounds just way much better. And I basically apply the same structure for the melodies and the vocals and a kick, bass, drums, whatever. And then I'm again mixing the drum bus and adding some compression and limiting. So before I'm sending the signal to the master, I already want to make sure there are no crazy peaks, and I'm already reducing the amplitude of the signal without destroying the sound. So you could basically do this by using a soft clipper, saturation, maybe a compressor. It all depends on your preferences. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out the full track, make sure to check out the link in the description. Leave this a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to check out the samples, make sure to check out the Keinemusik producer bundle. All the sounds which I've used in this tutorial are included in this bundle. So if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the comments. And I hope you have an amazing day, create some awesome music, and see you next week.